you are open to feedback? Would you say that you approach things with the beginner's mind? A very warm welcome to Intention Monday, martial arts philosophy in principles. And the first principle that we're talking about today is humility. So I study a martial art called Choi Kwang Do, and a lot of how I show up today and who I am today has been influenced by my martial arts background. And so we have a set of principles in the martial art that I train, which is called Choi Kwang Do. And in Choi Kwang Do, there are 6 main principles: humility, integrity, gentleness, perseverance, self-control, and unbreakable spirit. The first principle is humility. And the first principle is humility for a reason. Humility comes first. And inside of humility, how does this apply to our day-to-day lives? How does it apply to our business? How does it apply in terms of the way we can increase revenues for our coaching business? So this is the key thing that we're going to be discussing today. First of all, there is some power in starting small. And in order to be able to start anything, in order to be able to take a journey such as launching a coaching business or growing a coaching business or scaling a coaching business, one has to start small. And it takes something to take that first step. The first step is often the hardest. And there's a Chinese proverb that says, a journey of 1,000 steps begins with the first step. And there's a reason for that, because that first step can have the most effort. Think about a plane on a runway about to take off. Most of the energy, the drive, the momentum, the forward pulling force of that plane is required on the runway itself. I don't know if you've experienced this, when you've gone on holiday and you get into a plane, rolls up onto the runway, and there's a split second where it pauses. So it gets onto the runway and it pauses. And just for that moment, and then there's a second gap, and then what happens is the engines start up, they go, everything becomes really loud, and the plane starts to shake, and then that's when you know it's pulling forward, 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 forward. It's a massive amount of momentum required to start. And there is something to be said about just starting. So that's the first step. If you were waiting for a sign for if I should look to scale my coaching business, if I should look to scale the impact that I'm making, if I should look to scale the number of lives I want to reach, this is your message. This is the sign that you were waiting for. Let's make that happen. And with that, along the journey, there comes this mindset around being open to learning. In Zen Buddhism, this is called the beginner's mind. And a beginner's mind is very important. And this week, I'm starting off a brand new coaching program, which is really going to require coaches to show up with that beginner's mind. It's going to be an incredibly powerful and transformative process. And it can only be incredibly powerful and transformative if we show up with that beginner's mind. Now that's for the coaches to show up that way, but it's also for me to show up that way as well. It's also for me to show up with a level of humility. It's also for me to show up with this amazing wondering of, what can we create in this space? And for me not to bring anything external to it for expectations I may have, rather for me to be open to, okay, what are we going to create in this space? And it's powerful because when you want to create something new, if you start on a canvas which already has a bunch of paint on, then you're not really going to be able to create something new. If you start with a completely blank canvas and just be open to being a blank canvas, then an artist can do some really beautiful work. So there's an openness to learning, and it's just beautiful and incredibly powerful. Now in the martial art, because we're talking about martial arts principle, inside of humility, when we show up to the dojang, in the martial art, I'm currently ranked at the time of making this video as a 3rd degree black belt, blue tag. And that's a pretty senior rank in the martial art. Now I could show up to the dojang pretending that I know everything, I've got all of this knowledge, I've got, whatever it is, 11 years of experience behind me, and I'm all that. Or I have the option to show up as a white belt. But what does that mean? In the martial art, we have a belt ranking system. And of course, black belt is the highest rank that you can get, and then there are several ranks within black belt. And then the starting rank, when you start out completely new, you have no knowledge, no prior knowledge, you start out as a white belt. And this white belt, this mindset of a white belt is they show up and they're just open to learning because they have no prior knowledge of the art. So they're completely new, they're completely open, everything is amazing, everything is being soaked in, they're sponges. So to show up in that way requires humility. One of the ways we remind ourselves of that in the martial art is we have an anchor. And you can find anchors for yourself inside of the way that you show up as well. So one of the beautiful anchors that we have in the martial art is every time we walk into the training environment, we stand at the door and we get into an attention stance, so the feet are together, hands by the side, and we say, "Pil Sang sir, Pil Sang ma'am," and then we bow. And now that bow is very important. Now, why did I just demonstrate that? That bow is really critical because when we bow and we're leaning forward, what we can signify to ourselves, to all of the cells inside of our body, is that I am now emptying out a cup that I brought to this space, which was full, but I'm emptying it all out. At the door, I'm leaving behind what I think I know, and I'm coming into this newly, ready to learn, ready to absorb. This is an anchor. And every time we walk into the dojang, we beautifully surrender all of that. All of that we thought we knew. And we are letting that all go in that space. Can you come up with an anchor for yourself where you are really open to learning? If you're watching live, let me know what you're thinking in the comments. What is your take on this principle of the martial art, which is humility? If you're on replay, hashtag replay, let me know what you are thinking. With Jenny on live, Jenny says humility is so important in every area of our lives, and she loves how we link this with the martial arts background. Absolutely. You know, the way that we show up carries vibration, and that's why it is important in every aspect of our lives. I completely agree with Jenny. If we show up to our business with humility, then we're also open to learning as well. And sometimes that requires us to put our hands up and say, hey, we don't know it all, and we need to get some help, right? We need to work with someone who's ideally a mentor, who's been there, done it, got the t-shirt, can give the consulting, can give the forward momentum. It doesn't necessarily have to be myself, even though I fit that criteria. It could be someone else. But there's a power in raising your hand and saying, I don't know it all, and I need that help. So lean in and help. It takes courage to put your hand up and say help. It takes courage to say, I need guidance. A lot of people can't do that, unfortunately, and it's really sad to see that. And it's amazing because I can pick up this beautiful vibration on a discovery call. I can tell straight away if someone's going to be willing to be open to working with me, or even anyone for that matter, or if they're coming to it with this full cup around, you know what? I think I know everything already, I've got it all locked down, I'm going to be okay. Well, okay. So then the beautiful thing is the universe is always teaching us. And ultimately, we have to empty our cup in order to be able to take on newly. So it's really powerful. So really ask for help. And another thing that we always can do that's really powerful is just put our hands up and admit when we make a mistake. This also takes humility. And this is true leadership. True leadership for me is not being perfect and showing up to the world like you are all that and you are perfect. True leadership, true humility is being able to show up and say and declare, you know what, I got that wrong. Or you know what, I was holding that judgment, I'm letting that go, and this is how we're going to move forward. Or you know what, I was late to that meeting, that didn't work, and there's an impact to the people around me. You know what, my apologies for that, I'll put this in place next time, won't happen again. There's all of these different ways where we can just put our hands up and really just have that humility. And having humility is incredibly powerful because it bashes the ego. And there's a great book called The Ego is the Enemy. You should read that. So it's just powerful. It's a powerful way of being. Humility is a powerful way of being. So this week, I want to ask, how are we bringing humility to our game? How are we going to really powerfully bring humility to our week? What are we going to do differently? How are we shaking things up? Let's go into the week with that beginner's mindset, with that white belt mindset, with that mindset of I'm here to learn, I'm here to absorb, and ask for help when you need it. Let me know what you got from this on the replay. Until the next time, my name's Rishi Patel. I'm the founder of Selling in Alignment, where I work with coaches and consultants to reprice and package their services. Keep selling in alignment.